Hello everybody. So quick video on MSTR. Video formed as a question. Do you enjoy the post-ATM era? Much of retail has complained, Wall Street too complained about the common ATM. They hate it so much, and the stock will be fixed if we stop issuing common shares via the ATM. MSTR needs to stop the ATM, and I cannot imagine the pressure that must have gone on for this empty ATM only after 2.5x MNAV to happen, this rule to happen. As I've said before, I think this is too high. I mean, I agree with some restraint, sure, but not 2.5 MNAV, because you can make money selling $1 for $1.60. It's just fine. That margin was just fine for me. And so many of you, though, should be really, really happy because we're in that era now. Saylor indulged, and he was like, yeah, okay, all right, no more ATM, and we'll see what happens. And what happens when you don't have common ATM anymore? Well, look, MSTR is down 1.1%, and Bitcoin today is up 2.7%. Now, of course, I really don't care about that. I'm a long-term shareholder. I don't have options expiring at the end of the month, or the third Friday of next month. So I don't have any option expiring. I don't have any 2x leverage play. So to me, it really doesn't matter. But if you're a short-term trader, you might be a little upset about that. If you care about the short-term price of MSTR, you might be a little upset about that because he stopped doing the common ATM. Like so many people were loud on X, loud on YouTube, in YouTube comments, saying he needs to stop the ATM. And look at that. It didn't do anything. The ATM is still doing its own thing. And in fact, it's compressing right now, even though there's no selling. Would the selling have made it worse? I mean, this is like theoretically you could say yes, but is that even how it would have gone if we had just kept the ATM? I'm not even sure about that. Because if we had kept the ATM last week, we would have had an amazing announcement. We would have had a multi-$100 million buy last week if he had kept the ATM on, and that would have been good for the long-term shareholder. That would have been very good for a long-term shareholder. And we had a teeny tiny buy last week because the common ATM was not turned on anymore because everybody complained about the common ATM. So, a few important thoughts. That delta, that difference between Bitcoin and MSTR is 3.9. Let's call it 4%. It's not the end of the world. Like I see in the comment section, many people are upset. It's not the end of the world, okay? And am I gonna get as many comments when Bitcoin is flat and MSTR is up 3%? Am I gonna get this many comments? Because this happens too, right? So okay, we're seeing some MNAV compression. It shouldn't matter anymore since Saylor told you he's not doing the MNAV anymore. He's not going to be issuing new shares in a very, very long time because he's waiting for 2.5. So he may not issue new common shares ever again if we don't get to 2.5, which I think is too high. So anyways, I've never liked this anti-ATM narrative. I think right now he should be collecting the money with the ATM because it's long-term beneficial for the shareholders. And this is strategytracker.com. You can look at the MNAV, and many people calculate MNAV different ways. Some people have it at 1.45. I like the 1.6. It doesn't matter. The point I'm trying to make is that it's accretive. So we're at a 1.6 MNAV right now. We're back to the all-time intraday low of MNAV, which was also there in March of 2025. So we're back to the MNAV levels of March of 2025. So just about all-time low as far as the last year goes, as far as the past year goes, it's about all-time low. But of course, back then he was ATMing, right, at 1.6. Today he's not ATMing at 1.6. So the main difference is that today we're not acquiring more Bitcoin, and we were acquiring more Bitcoin back three months ago. And so 1.6, ATMing at 1.6, that means you're selling $1 for $1.60. Why is that a bad thing? It's a really, really great thing. I love it very much. I wish he had done that last week when MNAV was more like a 1.65 or 1.7. Why do I wish he had done that last week? Because look, last week, Bitcoin was trading at 114, 115, even towards the end of the week, 116. That would have been pretty good, wouldn't it? So he stopped ATMing because people were complaining And you know, I think that was a major mistake. So the point is not a major mistake. You know, I trust Saylor. I still have full trust in Saylor, but I wish he had kept ATMing, and I wish he had not caved to a lot of what Wall Street had requested. And maybe he didn't cave, and I still think he didn't cave. I think it's AI. I think Saylor is simply using AI, and I think based on his discussions with AI, that's what he decided to do, and that's what he decided was best for the shareholders. It's still what I think. But right now, it's looking like some firms are listening to Wall Street. And when you listen to Wall Street, do you ever get rewarded for listening to Wall Street? Do you ever get rewarded, right? How about firms that focus on earnings per share and don't focus on EBITDA? They focus on earnings per share. Focusing on earnings per share is like maximizing your taxes. How about firms that focus on buybacks? You starve the firm from cash. When you do buybacks, you make the firm more fragile because you have less cash, because you literally burnt the cash buying back shares, which is what a buyback is. A buyback is that money is destroyed to reduce share count, right? How about marketing is an expense, right? That's one of my favorite Wall Street moves. Marketing is bad. You should not spend in marketing. Acquiring new customers is not a good thing. And my favorite story always is Sears refusing to update the stores in 2004 while they were doing a $5 billion buyback on Sears stock. They were buying back $5 billion of Sears stock while they could have updated the stores instead, and yet people in marketing were like told, no, we can't give you new lights. Sorry, we don't have $2 million to update the light bulbs and make the store look better. That led straight to bankruptcy. And right, dilution is bad. Like Wall Street has mental models that have 70 years old, and dilution is bad. Dilution is bad. Like that's not first principle thinking. And you know, I have CleanSpark as the best example of that. CleanSpark is essentially trading at an all-time low, and they had a CEO change. Right, the CEO was probably thanked for their service. But the point is, why is CleanSpark trading at an all-time low? Think about that. CleanSpark had an amazing strategy. They were diluting at about a 2x MNAV roughly. So you make one, you sell $1 for $2, so you make $1. And they were taking that dollar not to buy Bitcoin, they were taking that dollar to mine Bitcoin at about 50,000 or 45,000 a coin. So CleanSpark was essentially manufacturing an MNAV of 4 because they were using dilution in their stock to pay for the electric bill to mine the Bitcoin half off. You see, that's the wise thing to do. And I remember listening to 2 conference calls of CleanSpark CEO saying, we're the adults in the room. We are going to sell the Bitcoin to finance the electricity. And at the end of the day, CleanSpark is not being rewarded for that, right? It's at an all-time low, even though they had a much better strategy. It makes sense to dilute when you dilute at a positive MNAV. And from a math standpoint, even an MNAV of a 1.01 makes sense. Even that makes sense from a math standpoint. And case in point, this is my video, which you know, only 3,000. It's funny. I make I make videos sometimes. You know, I don't harvest fear, but sometimes I make video about bad news. They get 10, 12,000 views. In fact, my best videos are videos about bad news. They get like 10 or 12,000 views. Anyways, this video got 3,000 views, where I explain exactly with math how MNAV works, exactly how it works. Nobody watched it. Nobody cares about understanding how the common ATM works. But the truth is, when I made that video 3 months ago exactly, Bitcoin count for MSTR was 548,000. They had 548,000 Bitcoin 3 months ago. Today, they have 629,000 Bitcoin today. So the Bitcoin increased by 15%. And why did the Bitcoin increase by 15%? It increased by 15% thanks to the dilution, thanks to the MNAV. That's how he did it. That's how they did it. I'll show you another way to think about it in a sec. I'll get to that in a second. I love the preferred strategy myself, but I really don't understand why we need to starve ourselves from the MNAV. We can do both. We've been doing both. Why do we need to starve ourselves from the proceeds from the common ATM MNAV? So I love a preferred strategy, but you know, I was expecting him to shift to a preferred strategy, but I thought we had at least another 6 months of MNAV, right? MNAV, like I showed in the math, MNAV can be tapped minute by minute. You can do that minute by minute. You can sense, for example, imagine you see euphoria. you can dampen, you can smoothen those spikes, you can smoothen the euphoria by issuing a bunch of share in euphoric moments. And that could have a very, very small impact on your actual MNAV. MNAV is largely driven by sentiment. And sentiment is good when Saylor announces big buys on the weekends. That's when sentiment is good. Anyways, so you could have kept going with the ATM. Another way to look at the math, and of course this is me showing you the math. You can see the share price, it was 368 then, it's 390 now. And how were they able to grow the share price for everybody? Via dilution. They diluted. Thanks to the dilution, they were able to grow the bag from 548 to 628. By the way, all of this tax-free because of course it moves through the balance sheet, it doesn't move through the income statement. Here's another way to think about it for you. Let's look at the total return since they adopted the BTC strategy. So August 2020, they adopted the Bitcoin strategy. Imagine you bought then and you held until then, until today. You held until today. You had a 32 times your money. 32 times your money. If you had done that with Bitcoin, GBTC being my best proxy here for my calculator, that would have been about 8 times your money. 8 times your money for Bitcoin, 32 times your money for MSTR over a 5-year period. That strategy, which comprised a lot of ATM, much of the Bitcoin by Saylor was acquired in the past year. That strategy has yielded way more than just holding Bitcoin. So that's why we need to zoom out. Zooming out is important. It's very important. What's another way to look at this matter? And why stop what has worked before? Well, another way to look at this matter is, look, we 32x'd the stock price, the share price 32x'd. The market cap 110x'd. The market cap went up 110 times. The share price went up 32 times. That delta, the difference between the two numbers, is the dilution. Without the dilution, we would have not been able to do a 32 times on the stock price. That would not have been possible. We needed the dilution. And today we have a new strategy. We have a preferred, but I sure hope the AI is right. I sure hope we're not too early doing the ATM. I don't think we are too early. Like I said, my trust in Saylor is like iron. It's insane. My trust in Saylor, and of course I got into this stock very early. So, and like many of us, right? So of course I'm gonna trust Saylor, and it's not like I'm ever gonna sell. I'm stuck. That capital gains would be just too high if I sold MSTR, and I think a lot of us are in this situation. But anyways, serious thoughts now. So what's happening? Well, Bitcoin is a global asset. Bitcoin trades around the world. Bitcoin has a lot of inflows that come from just about everywhere. MSTR is not. MSTR is a North American asset. And maybe some Europeans own it too, but it's mostly a North American asset. So MSTR trades in TradFi world. Bitcoin trades in global world. And so Bitcoin is going to follow supply and demand in a much more unimpaired way than MSTR is, because MSTR trades in TradFi. And what's happening in August 13, what's happening in the Northern Hemisphere, August 13? It's the height of summer, okay? Summer, that's why we say sometimes, summer doldrums. Sometimes we say, sell in May and go away, come back in September. Summer means retail is at the beach. Summer means Wall Street is at the beach, It's maybe it's different for Australians, for fun, because this is also a hobby for me, this channel, so I gotta have some fun. I looked up the capital of Australia. I looked up the weather in Australia, 43 degrees, right? So it's freezing in Australia right now, right? This is weather in my area right now. This is as of right now. It's 100 degrees right now, and I just got a warning for excessive heat about 2 hours ago, and we get those every 2 days, every 3 days we get those. So what do you think happens in the United States, right? Well, in the United States, people are not really trading right now. So that's why, in my view, I think that's the more likely reason as to why a lot of these Bitcoin proxies are just not trading in line with Bitcoin, because people are just not on their trading desks. Now, that's going to change in September. Winter is coming. That's gonna change when the Fed's gonna make a comeback, right? They're gonna have their meeting. I saw it's like 100% chance now on the CME Fed Watch tool that they're gonna drop the rates. As a long-term shareholder of MSTR, I have no issue and no doubt with that. Now, if I had options expiring in 2 days on Friday, I'd be a little upset too. But this is a stock for long-term holders. Saylor told you, he told us, I only work for the common. I think right now MSTR is in coil spring mode. Pressure is being applied on the MSTR coil spring. If Saylor decided to stop the ATM, he's the CEO. He has all of the information. He's not the CEO, but you know what I mean. He's the chairman. He has all of the info we need. If he decided to stop the ATM, I have to believe it's for a good reason. I have to believe he looked at these scenarios with AI. If we keep seeing these issues, or if Bitcoin, has a discount, I see no issue why Saylor could not change his mind. He has changed his mind before, right? Most recently, he changed his mind on convertible bonds and stopping convertible bonds. The biggest sign of intelligence is a CEO who's able to change their mind. Saylor is able to change his mind, so he may still change his mind. And we have Stretch, right? The one ATM we're all looking forward to. And we hope to have like $1 billion printed in Stretch in order to buy Bitcoin at some point. I think MSTR community hopes that. It's slowly closing in on 100. My guess is when this closes in on 100, he's not going to let it go past 100. And he's going to ATM minute by minute. And so we will never see this past 100. Well, probably, but we will not see it much past 100. Because as soon as this hits past 100, it's going to, click in the Bloomberg terminal or whatever they use, and they're going to start ATMing. So that's kind of my take on this. I'm not worried at all a single bit. Feel free to tell me if you enjoy the post-ATM era. I personally still preferred the pre-ATM era, but I look forward to being shown wrong when we have a major spike in MSTR. I look forward to be shown wrong that day. So this was not investment advice. This is not financial advice. This is only entertainment. I'm hoping you were entertained. Please like, please subscribe, follow me on Patreon, follow me on X. Thank you for watching, and have a wonderful, wonderful day.